Hello everyone, this is Sakura Diesel here, and welcome back to another TV show review. So it's been a while since I've done a TV show review outside of Thomas, and I wanted to do something different this time around. Most of the shows I've reviewed up until now have been shows I grew up with as a child, or shows I've seen recently, and trust me, I have more shows from my childhood that I do want to cover at some point. But I realized that sooner or later I'm going to have to start reviewing shows I've never watched before. Sort of a blind review, if you will. This would be for shows that have just come out recently, or shows that have been out when I was little, but I've never watched them, either because I've never heard about them, or I wasn't that interested in them as a kid. Also, I want to introduce a new way to review TV shows, because most of the shows I've been reviewing, like Thomas and Ed and Eddie, have been episodic type of shows. Meaning they're shows where you don't really need to watch it from the beginning because each episode is its own thing that doesn't really connect to any overarching story, or it doesn't affect the show in any way, shape, or form. Sure, you can argue that you might need to watch a certain episode of Thomas in order to understand a certain aspect of another episode, but for the most part I can easily recommend whatever I think is a good episode to a newcomer, and they don't have to worry about catching up too much in order to get an idea on what the show is about. But doing an episode-by-episode review style is not going to work for all shows, especially where you have not only to watch the first episode, but you sometimes have to watch the episodes in order to understand what is going on and follow along with the plots and characters. So doing an episode-style review will not work if all the episodes is supposed to be connected to not only a season, but the show overall, and anime is a prime example of stuff like that. So I got to thinking, what if I was to do a review of a show where instead of going from episode by episode, I go from season by season or from arc to an arc? This is something I've wanted to try and see if this will work out. So then I thought, well, what show should I try this with? And then it hit me. As you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to try this new style review on Avatar: The Last Airbender. First aired on Nickelodeon on February 21st, 2005. Avatar is said to be one of the greatest Nick shows, greatest animated shows, and greatest shows of all time. Even today, it's still well known and loved by old and new fans alike, as it is praised for its excellent three-dimensional characters, stellar animation and action scenes, and its well-rounded story. With the show ready to reach its 20th year soon, it's impressive that even after its cancellation, the show is still popular. Now, as stated before, I didn't grow up with too many Nickelodeon shows during my childhood. There was just something about the channel that, outside of the Fairly OddParents and SpongeBob, and a few sitcoms, most of the shows just didn't click with me as a kid. Avatar was one of those shows where I knew about it as a kid, but never watched it or had any interest in watching it. I was more into the shows like the original Teen Titans as a kid, but during and after high school, I noticed that the show started to gain lots of attention, and from what people have told me and from what I've seen of the show, I finally got curious and decided to watch the first season. What did I think of it? Well, if you saw my reaction and first impression of the 2 episodes, I mentioned that I was impressed with the show and its characters, and the animation, and I wanted to see more. So after watching this season 3 times, does it still hold up, and was the praise worth given? Well, let's take a look. So before watching the show and deciding to review it, I had some good ideas about certain characters in this show. I had a decent idea about their traits and backstory, and after watching the show for the first time, not only was I impressed with these characters, but even knowing a little bit about them, I still wanted to learn more about these characters. I wanted to see them grow, to see them learn and mature as characters, and I'm not just talking about one character, but all the characters and even their relationship with each other in this show. I wanted to see more of Zuko with his uncle, learning and understanding why he chooses to follow and help his nephew. I wanted to learn more about Zuko's family with his father and his sister. That'll be shown in the next season, of course. I also wanted to see Aang and Katara's relationship grow as, spoilers, but even I know they do get together in the end. But again, even knowing that, watching these 2 characters grow as friends makes you want to see their relationship build. I think what makes these characters work so well, and why so many of them are still recognizable to this day, are that these characters have traits, they have relationships, and how they build and grow together as the show progresses. In some of the other shows we've looked on this channel, we have characters that have certain traits that make them stand out from each other, and it's usually only that certain trait we see of that character. It's not a bad thing, of course, as you could do many things with that character's trait for a standalone story or episode, but for a story arc like Avatar, there's going to be a point in which a character has to grow at some point. Now, the growth shouldn't just be like a one episode done deal. You have to make sure it builds up just enough to where you can feel these characters have come a long way. The reason characters like Phoenix Wright or Miles Edgeworth are good characters is because you feel them actually growing with each case they've worked on, Edgeworth especially. You see how much they mature over the years. That makes you forget that they were a completely different character before those subtle changes have started. And that's what Avatar is starting to feel like with its characters. With each episode, you see someone like Aang growing as a character. You want to see him do better than what he did 100 years ago. That's how all of these characters are. You see them growing. They don't just have one certain trait and that's it. No, you see them taking that trait and building it up, using that trait to help them grow, and the two characters best for that are Zuko and Aang. Let's start with the main character, Aang. At the beginning of the season, we see him as a lovable little goofball with a big, innocent heart. He's kind, caring of others, and at some point he can be quite brave and loves to show others how to have fun. But also from the beginning, we see that he does have a serious side when he needs to show it. When the Southern Water Temple found out that he and Katara accidentally set off a single from a Fire Nation ship, he takes full blame and leaves the place so he doesn't put Katara and her family into danger. And when he sees a Fire Nation ship entering the village, he goes back and offers himself to leave them in peace. It's from there we learn that he is the Avatar that's been missing for 100 years. And from here, we learn that he didn't want to be the Avatar because the responsibility was too much for him, and throughout the first season, you can still see his fear, wondering if he does have what it takes to stop the war. You can see some growth he's going through during his journey. The show finds the right balance with this character. They make him the kind of person you would love to hang out to learn about certain towns or certain games, but they make sure they don't overstay his fun side for too long when he needs to get serious. When he gets scared or worried, you do feel for him and want to see him grow. Seeing him acting brave or learning from his mistakes, you can see that progression. You root for him when he outsmarts a creature or the Fire Nations themselves. He is a strong lead character, and as a strong lead character, you need a strong enemy for him, and that's where Zuko comes in. When we first see him, you think he's the typical villain that wants to kill the hero so the war will continue, or to just restore the honor in his family. But much like with Aang, throughout the first season, we see there's more to him than just a simple villain. At first, you think he doesn't care about anyone but himself and his goals. But even early in the show, we see that he has some kind of special bond between him and his uncle, General Iroh. We know that his uncle sees something in his nephew that he wants to help him and train him to be a better prince. He puts up with a lot of Zuko because he understands what he's going through, and he wants to be there for him. And even though he doesn't always shows it, you can tell that Zuko appreciates it and will help his uncle if he needs to. And throughout the first season, we see and learn a little bit more about Zuko that it makes you want to see more as the show goes on. I certainly wanted to know more just from the first season, as I know what happens to him in the end, and after watching the first season, I want to see how they come to that build-up in the end. We even see some character depth between Katara and Sokka. Katara is kind and helpful, but can be stubborn and perhaps be a bit too helpful, to the point where she unintentionally gets her and other people into trouble. But she's not afraid to stand up for herself or her friends when she needs to, and tries to be patient and understanding to other people. Sokka can also be too protective and in some cases boastful about himself, but when he is in the wrong, he is not afraid to admit so, and all he wants to do is just actually prove himself towards others, especially to his friends. And in some cases, he is a good fighter, and he can come up with some good plans when he can. He is a goofball, but he is also a smart character, and he can also be loyal to his sisters and to Aang. Overall, we have some pretty strong cast of characters, not just main, but recurring and one-off characters too. All these characters certainly earn their place, and it's easy to see why many are popular and memorable towards others. Avatar is often praised for its animation, while some consider it to be a Western-style anime, and I can see where they're coming from. The show does have an anime-like feel to it at times, from the expressions on the characters' faces, to the nice detailed backgrounds, to even the action that goes on during the show. It definitely pays tribute to the action-style anime like Dragon Ball, but it still has its own identity. It is different from what we usually see in other Western animated shows, and in many ways gives this show another reason why it is still remembered by many. Let's start with the background. The show does a great job showing different towns and locations and making them stand out from one another. With each location, you do get a sense of what kind of culture the characters have in the town, and they also try to make sure that some towns don't look too similar to each other. Even the ones that have similar structures still have a couple of things that you can tell which town is which. The character models and their expressions are good here too. As said before, the show keeps a good balance with its humor and its serious moments, and not only does it have to do with the characters, but their expressions as well. When there's a goofy moment, the show lets us know from the character's expression and even tone of voice. What's nice is that it doesn't go too over the top for it to be distracting, and even when it does, the way it's drawn and delivered makes it funny, and there's a couple of moments where I chuckled at the expressions. But then when the serious stuff hits, you can tell from the expressions that whenever these characters are going through means a lot to them. Let's talk about Aang again. During the first season, under that joyful, innocent personality he has, you can see that there are plenty of moments where he gets confused and he shows a lot of guilt he feels when he ran away 100 years ago. He just can't believe that the war was this harsh towards not only his tribe, but other tribes, and he feels it was his fault that he let it happen. And when he comes across his own tribe and what happened, he finally snaps and knows this can't continue, and he needs to do something about this. He wants to mature and make up for the mistake he made, and you see that through his expressions, tone, and the effort he's putting. Again, you want to see him succeed, and seeing him putting the effort makes you feel he deserves a second chance. There are plenty of other moments in the show where you see the characters deep in thought, like with Katara and Sokka thinking about their father, or Katara realizing she went too far when she snapped at Aang for being better at waterbending than her. And of course, although he doesn't show it clearly, you can also see the amount of pain and determination Zuko has in capturing Aang, and his uncle worrying about him. The show puts a lot of thought into these characters and treats them seriously, not just from the writing, but from the animation as well. And as such, we, the audience, treat them seriously too, and we want to see them grow and hope everything will turn out alright in the end. And of course, I need to talk about the action in the show and how it's handled, and it's handled really well. The show does a good job inviting you into the action, and they tried very hard to make sure each move is well animated. They do some creative stuff when it comes to the elemental bending, and again, you can see the progress the characters have learned from their bending as the show progresses. The shots and points of view the team captures are pretty impressive, not just from bending, but from normal action as well. I can't say too much here as I'm not an expert on fighting and the choreography behind it, but I can say that overall the animation is impressive and well made for a Nickelodeon show. So like I said, even without watching Avatar, I knew that going in it was going to be one of those shows where you can't just pick an episode at random and expect to know what the show is about. Now I usually watch a show from beginning to end anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. And what I like about the show is that although you do need to watch the beginning, as well as most episodes to understand a certain point of the story, they also do a good job in making each episode stand out on their own from each other, while also keeping them in mind when they're brought up again. And I'm sure as I watch the next two seasons, there might be some explanation brought in past episodes that will get explained later on. There were some aspects in the first season I do hope they get explained later on. But if not, I won't be angry as, like I said, each episode was good enough on their own that I'm okay with thinking up or coming up with theories on certain aspects of the show, like what happened to Iroh's son, or how the Katara's tribe came to be, or what or where did Katara and Sokka's father disappear to. What I also like is, as the story goes along, you see the growth again from the characters and their actions. But you also see the chemistry and their relationships growing over time, between Aang, Katara, and Sokka, as well as Zuko and his uncle, and even with minor characters like Jet and his deal with the Fire Nation, or even hearing about Zuko's sister and his father. They give you just enough information for you to get invested with these characters. It does a good job of making you wonder where this part of the story will go in future episodes. What I also like about each episode is how it flows, and they make sure that each scene, even the littlest details in the episode, is used in the story in some way. For example, in the episode where Aang tries to go to the spirit world for the first time, they come across a forest that's been burned to the ground, causing Aang to be upset at the state. But Katara gives him an acorn to remind him that the forest would one day grow back. Later in that episode, a small earthbender village has had trouble dealing with an angry monster from the spirit world, and after entering the spirit world, Aang meets the monster again and shows him the same acorn that Katara gave him, also giving him hope that the forest will one day grow back, and everything ends up okay for the village. The writers made sure that you follow along with the story, and that each scene, whether the visuals or from the dialogue, is put to use, so that it doesn't feel like the ending or the resolution came out of nowhere. Well, maybe except for one. Now, before I get into this, there's going to be a spoiler warning here for those that have not seen the show yet, so go to this timestamp on screen and in the description box below if you want to hear my final thoughts on the show. Those that have seen the show, let me explain. So, in a way, I guess if you want to call it a 3-part finale of sorts, we see Aang and Katara going to the Northern Water Tribe to learn waterbending. There, Sokka meets and falls heavily in love with a princess of the tribe named Yu. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure how to feel about Yu as a character. Now, don't get me wrong, for any fans or hardcore shippers of Yu and Sokka out there, I totally see what makes this couple so memorable, and in some ways, I like Yu. Again, the show does a great job establishing relationships between certain characters, and they do feel so real. I'll admit, I almost cried when Yu sacrificed herself to save the moon, but this is where I'm a little split on Yu. On the one hand, I can't say she doesn't have a character of some kind. She does also serve a purpose in the episode, but at the same time, I can't help to feel that she was more of a plot device than an actual character. I mean, as much as I do like how her relation with Sokka was handled, I can't help but to feel it was like a soap opera at times. We don't even get to see her boyfriend for most of the episodes to get any impression that she doesn't like him. I mean, sure, we the viewers can know that he's not the right person to marry her, but I wish we would have had at least one scene with the two of them together to get a better understanding if this marriage is going to work or not. Although I will admit, his battle with Zhao was really funny. Just the way they animated the scene and how it was executed, it never fails to make me laugh. Anyway, every time that I see this finale and Yu, I keep on thinking to myself, what is it about her that just feels off? And then I got to thinking, what if she and Sokka weren't in love? Or what if Yu was also in love with Han and he decided to help out? Would any of these alternate stories be better? Well, the former probably wouldn't work out as well as the original. I mean, it would still be sad, and I'm sure most would still cry if Sokka and Yu were like good friends and such, but having them be in love does make it all the more tragic. But then what about the latter? What if we actually got to see Han some more and learn more about his relationship with Yu, and there was some chemistry between them? Would it actually work? Would it still be sad? Now, I'm not saying what we got from the original is bad by any means, or that it ruins the finale, because it doesn't. It still has a good story with good character interaction, and of course great action and great animation to go along with. This is just more of a wonder, and who knows, maybe you guys might have seen something different than I did. I'm curious if you guys agree with my stance on Yu, or if you think I missed something between them. I would like to know down in the comments. But like I said, even if the story doesn't always hit the mark, I can't say I wasn't interested or I didn't want to follow along with Aang's journey. These are just another factor of making the show seem so real. The stories make these characters stand out, even the minor ones. They make you ask more questions that you hope you'll get some answers to. I can say with confidence that there were a couple of episodes from this season that made me fall in love with these characters some more. Episodes like The Storm or The Blue Spirit, or even episodes where we learn more about the Fire Nation and their culture. They leave me with both curiosity and excitement when I'm ready to watch more episodes. So good job, writers of the show. You did an amazing job keeping me engaged with both the setting and characters of this show. Actually, what I really should be saying is thank you to everyone that worked on this show. I've heard lots of great things about this show, from my friends that grew up with the show, to others who have also never seen the show like me. So, when I began to watch this show for the review, I thought I was ready for whatever the show was going to throw at me, but I still wasn't ready for how deep and how well this show was made. I could tell that I missed out big time as a kid for skipping this show. It's funny because I did watch one episode as a kid and I didn't remember hating it, so why didn't I watch it? Was it because it was too different from what I was used to? Or was it because I was still a die-hard Cartoon Network fan that I didn't want to watch a show from another network? Well, either way, I am glad I gave the show a chance that it deserves. Even when watching the show again for 2 more times, there were still a lot of things I didn't catch the first time, and I was still engaged even after knowing what happens in certain episodes. I now see why this show is still very loved to this day, and it should still get the love and recognition for all the hard work the team went into making this show. They treated everyone watching the show like mature adults. They weren't afraid in doing some heavy stuff. They made a show where anyone can watch. The kids and teens can watch for the action and funny moments, while the adults can also get behind on the action, world building, and the development all of these characters go through. After finally sitting down and watching the show, I can say that Avatar is one of my new favorite shows of all time. But that's only the first season. But even with the first season, it does a good job introducing the characters, the plot, and ending leaves you ready for so much more. So, for my rating for the first season, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for a great season and a great start for the show. If you guys have never heard of the show, or you have but haven't seen it yet, definitely check this show out. You really need to. It's also reaching its 20th anniversary, and it's still that good of a show, and I can't wait to check out the other 2 seasons. And that'll do it for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thanks to everyone that stuck for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you guys think about this review style. I'll still do the episode-by-episode reviews of other shows, but for shows like Avatar, do you like the way I did this review in this style? If so, I have plenty of other shows that I can give this sort of style to later on. And if you guys do want me to review every episode of the show, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. But anyway, that'll do it for my review on Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you guys did enjoy this review, don't forget to hit the like button. If you guys want to see more reviews on movies or TV shows from my main channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. Also, me and Space Train have a new co-op series, Review Bros, where we review movie and TV shows together. I'll make sure to put the link in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you guys like Let's Plays, don't forget to check out my gaming channel, where I play mostly any games that have my interests. Again, the link to the gaming channel will also be in the description below. But anyway, it's been Sakura Diesel saying thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all to the next movie or TV show review, whatever I have planned coming up soon. But until then, take care, everybody.